Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Barry, and once again, it is my great privilege and honor to be introducing a man who knows Formula One better than most, none other than Sasha Martinengo. Sasha, how are you this afternoon?
Barry, always good to see you. Always good to chat to you. I'm fabulous, thank you. And it's Formula One week, MotoGP week, so I'm even doubly excited.
Yes, geez, it feels like we've been waiting another 3 months for the for the Italian or the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, should I rather say. But Sasha,
Yeah.
let's speak about the Bahrain Grand Prix. And without getting too excited, because of course we still have 22 more races, hopefully to go. But it does seem that we are going to get a fight for the championship that we've basically been deprived of since Nico Rosberg has left Formula One.
Yeah, well, the makings of Bahrain gave us a kind of indication that Red Bull and Honda are very much up for it this year, and Mercedes have got a bit of a fight in their hands. So I think, God willing, let's hope that it continues this way. But it looks fantastic, and there was a great first race to open the season.
Yes, no, absolutely, and we'll dive into all the details about Verstappen versus Hamilton a little bit later. But I want to talk about a few highlights that I took out of the Grand Prix, and first of which is Lando Norris and McLaren. It really does seem like McLaren has got a very strong car for this year.
Yeah, wonderful. Barry, the last time we spoke, I said, watch out for McLaren.
Yes.
I think they really look good. They haven't, that first race, they didn't have any niggles with changing from the Renault to the Mercedes engine. The car looked very, very strong, very capable in the hands of both Norris and Ricciardo. And I think Lando Norris gave Danny Ricciardo a bit of a wake up. That's for sure. Superb drive from both of them, but specifically from Lando. And I mean, this guy's really just showing he's got an incredible talent, and he's got a wonderful temperament as well, both on the track and off the track. And if he can maintain that sort of sense of humor together with that racing pedigree, this guy's got a tremendous future.
Absolutely, I'm very looking forward to see, especially if Ricardo can get up there with Norris, to see where they'll end up on the championship.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. I mean, Danny's got to get used to the car. He won't make excuses. Everywhere he's raced, he's usually been quicker than his teammates. And this all of a sudden is quite a challenge for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, the next guy I want to talk about is someone who seems like he's extremely potent, and that is Yuki Tsunoda. This guy is on fire, and equally the Alpha Tauri seems like a very competitive car this year.
Yeah, let's talk about them both. Both. I mean, you got to feel for Pierre Gasly,
Mm.
but also, the last time we chatted, I said, watch out for this kid Yuki Tsunoda for a couple of reasons. Number one, he was unbelievably good in Formula Two. Number two, he is much smaller than everybody else, so it does allow AlphaTauri to change the ballast around the car quite a bit, which I'm sure is definitely something that they can try and gain an advantage. But what an outstanding drive from this young man. His first Grand Prix in Formula One. That was an incredible debut. And this guy has got the marks of being right up there with the very best. And we've just had Hideki Matsuyama win the Masters. The first Japanese to do so. We've got another Japanese driver in Formula One, which is always exciting to have. We've had some great ones over the years, but this kid seems to be really the real deal. And I haven't been this excited about an F1 driver, since Takuma Sato in terms of the Japanese drivers. Sato most probably didn't live up to the expectations that we expected. Maybe too much pressure. I think Tsunoda's the real deal and an outstanding performance. Thoroughly enjoyed watching him.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think he will be on Red Bull's radar for possible Red Bull seats? Perhaps if Perez's contract does not continue at the end of this year.
Yeah, 100%. He's part of the Red Bull stable. You've got to believe that a guy like Pierre Gasly is on the radar of other teams as well, because he's shown what kind of capability he's got as well. And he's in certain ways has had sort of admitted that he doesn't necessarily want to go up to Red Bull again.
Yeah.
So, he's going to be on the market. Perez just, got desperately unlucky. But what a fight back,
Yes.
and that was the mark of what we know as Sergio Perez. So We were disappointed in his qualifying in Bahrain, and we went, oh no, Jesus, another Gasly's, another Albon. But Perez showed his class and his quality, and I tell you, if they can hook that car up this week and have the front two rows with Mercedes and Honda, just saying, you know what, he's going to put a real spanner in the works, and that is what Max Verstappen needs, and that's what Red Bull needs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Perez, he arguably was a bit unlucky in qualifying, but I think definitely, and also you've got to take into account that's the first time he's driven the car in a race. I think that was a sort of trial run, but next up we're going to, or the next Grand Prix, I think we'll definitely see a more competitive race from Perez.
No, agreed. If he just gets his qualifying and he's up there with Max, and I have a feeling he's going to out-qualify Max in a couple of races as well. So, you know, don't discount Sergio Perez. This man is pedigree.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now moving over to the Alpine driver, that is Fernando Alonso. The guy just can't get a break from retiring Grand Prix rather. But that being said, if the plastic bag did not cover the brake duct or whatever happened, he was set for a top 10 finish. So what did you take from Alonso's race?
Yeah, you know, Fernando Alonso's come back into the sport. He's a much older man. He's a much more mature driver, and I think he's a lot more circumspect about what he can do and what is expected. Alpine and Renault have got a new boss at the top. Besides in the Formula One side, they've got a new boss at Renault, and they have committed to saying that 2022 they're going to produce the best car that Renault have ever produced. That's what Fernando's got to look forward to. He's got to look forward to developing and adapting his skill and his remarkable talent this year in what he has in that package.
Yeah.
I still believe that Renault is a fantastic engine, but they don't have any other team that they're supplying that can give them any other feedback, so they can only rely on themselves. And I expect some good results from Alpine this year, and I think Alonso, you know, will show his class and he'll end up in the top 10 quite regularly, as long as he doesn't have too many issues. The $1 million question is how much development they're going to put into the car.
Yeah.
I think that's most probably going to be one of your questions coming up. So let's see where it goes.
Yeah, well, speaking about development, and one team that has openly said that they will not be developing their car at all is, of course, the Haas team and Nikita Mazepin. Do you think? Yeah, I don't. What did you take from Mazepin's little outing and all the memes that have come from his outing?
Well, it was to be expected, Barrie. I mean, listen, this guy has been just in a barrage of hate mail since everything transpired last year about him. It's his own doing, and unfortunately, you know, the world of social media can be a very cruel place.
Yes.
He's got to have big shoulders in order to try and overcome it. He's in a very, very difficult car. It was his first race out there. He spun at the first corner after a couple of hundred meters. Mick Schumacher spun 2 laps later, but didn't hit the wall.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to defend the guy. I think he has got a lot to show us and to prove to us. But, you know, Sebastian Vettel, Felipe Massa in their first couple of races when they started in Formula One also had quite a few crashes.
Yeah.
But Nikita Mazepin is up against it in all angles. From a social media perspective, from the paddock perspective, from his, you know, how he's gotten into the team, it is going to be a very, very difficult run for him. Surprisingly, Mick Schumacher has come out in the last few days saying that he expects that the Haas team could be able to progress into a Q2 during the course of the year. Now, with a team that has acknowledged that they are doing no updates, I think their last updates come to this Imola Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Thereafterwards, this is how they're going to race until the end of the season. He's either got to hope for some kind of miracle, or he you know, all of a sudden he's going to find one lap form, which has not been Schumacher's strong point. So.
Yeah.
Clearly, he's either speaking fantastic PR speak, or he knows something that we don't. I don't see it happening unless something major happens. But I know that both of those young drivers are up against it in a team that is really going to struggle and battle to race with most probably Nicholas Latifi, those three together.
Yes, unfortunately, that is the case. But another team that struggled relatively this weekend was the Aston Martin team. I mean, Lance Stroll just
Mm.
crept into the top 10. Sebastian Vettel didn't feature really in qualifying for the race. Do you think the rules have really thrown that much of a curveball for the Aston Martin team?
You know, it's such a great question, an important question, Barry. The rules, you know, when Formula One and the FIA decide to change rules, it has to be a buy-in from everybody. Okay.
Mm,
I can't speak on behalf of Aston Martin, but last year's Racing Point we saw was very much a carbon copy of the 2019 Mercedes-Benz.
yes.
We also saw that they had the same rear brake ducts, they had the same rear suspension as the Mercedes-Benz. It never went any further than that, and everybody sat there and just accepted it. We saw how fantastic that Racing Point was. We saw Sergio Perez win a race, which
Yeah.
is magnificent. This year, of course, the rules have changed for everybody. Everybody has got the same set of rules. And Otmar Schnitzhauber has come out and has sat there and said these regulations are definitely against us. The change of the rake is against us.
Mm,
We're losing about a second a lap. I go, but hold on a second. You knew about these regulations. You could have adapted the car. So
yeah.
you have to question whether or not the assistance that they got from Mercedes-Benz by
Yeah.
copying or having very similar parts is questionable. It was a disappointing start for the return of
Yes.
Aston Martin. They did get in the points with Lance Stroll, but they have got a tremendous amount of work to do. You know, in any sport, Barry, when you're at the top, everyone's trying to knock you off. And when you finish third in the championship, you know, sure, the
Yeah.
drop to fourth is already hurting, but now all of a sudden drop down to seventh, eighth, and ninth, it's going to hurt, and it's going to be a tough season for them. They've got a lot of work to do, and I do not see them overcoming the problems that they had in Bahrain too easily. I think they're in for a long ride, and it's going to hurt people like Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah. I think I'm especially for Vettel. I think many people are thinking, especially after the last Grand Prix, oh no, like this guy is he's lost his talent. He can't drive F1 car anymore. He should just go. I think he's just very unlucky in the cars that he finds himself in at the moment.
Yeah, very much so. You know, last year in the Ferrari, it just didn't suit him. This year with this Aston Martin, I think we even saw it in those few days of testing. They just couldn't seem to get the balance right. Vettel is always a very, very optimistic man.
Yeah.
He will try his best to try and lift up the team. But if the car has a fundamental flaw in it compared to other cars, and they talking specifically about the rake, which is the height of the car at the back.
Yes.
I don't think it's a quick fix. So I think it is going to be a struggle, and maybe Vettel's long-term future in Formula One is something he might just sit and say, you know what, I'm not prepared to play this kind of game.
Yeah.
I think he perhaps went there with the thought that he was going to be getting into a Racing Point of 2020. It
Yeah.
hasn't worked out that way.
Yes. Unfortunately, but the one of the elephants in the room for the Grand Prix, of course, was track limits. Now, I think it was someone tallied it up. Lewis Hamilton exceeded track limits for 29 laps. He exceeded track limits, but only when Verstappen got a pass whilst exceeding track limits, then it only became an issue. Do you think, why can't the FIA just say the white line is the track, it's done. If you exceed it, you get a penalty. That's the end of it. Why are they so lenient with track limits?
Uh, you know, if I had a 100% answer, I'd most probably be the FIA director. But let's just point out one or two things that did happen. Every race, Barry, there's a driver's briefing. Okay.
Hmm.
Before the Grand Prix, and of course before the qualifying sessions and before the free practice sessions. In qualifying, they are told, if you exceed track limits, your time will be disallowed. Okay. End of story.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. Prior to the Grand Prix, and this is information that, sometimes we are not privy to, sometimes perhaps until after the race, unfortunately. Prior to the Grand Prix, when they sat in the driver's briefing, they were told that you won't be penalized for excessive track limits.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it comes to the question, hold on a second, out of a 60-lap race, 29 times you go over track limits. Surely that's excessive.
Yes.
I would agree that that's excessive, and you must gain an advantage. That's why they don't allow it in qualifying.
Yeah.
So you have to question, if you take away the 29 times that Lewis Hamilton exceeded track limits, and let's just say it's a tenth of a second, that's 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, it's three and a bit seconds. Sorry, it's 3 and a bit seconds. If you just say it's a tenth, more than likely it's a lot more than a tenth. The difference was when Max Verstappen exceeded track limits, it was in an overtake.
Yeah.
So there you are definitely gaining an advantage, and he did the right thing to give the place back. However, he gave it back in the wrong place.
Yes.
He should have carried on. He should have, but it's easy to say it afterwards. He should have carried on driving, made sure they got close to the next DRS zone, slowed down, let Lewis go past, hammered and got the DRS, and then passed him again. But, it's easy to say it from here. I agree with you. The FIA has got to make a standpoint. If there was a solid brick wall on the outside of turn 4, believe you me, none of those drivers would have exceeded track limits.
Yeah.
So that's the simple answer. I think Michael Massey made a mess of it. And try to defend what they did. But if you sit there and say, we won't penalize you for excessive, then give us a definition of excessive, because 29 laps out of 60 to me is excessive.
Yeah.
3 out of 60 to me is excessive.
Yes. I think the FIA has come out and said, I don't know if this is confirmed or anything, but apparently in Imola, if you exceed track limits, even in free practice sessions, I don't know if it's more than once or whatever, that you will be disqualified. So they've gone from one standpoint to an extremely content.
I think that's just a little bit of rumor mongering amongst everybody, and maybe just trying to get the attention of the FIA. I've said it for the last 30 years. Just give us consistency. When you make a ruling, just be consistent on it. That's all. If there's track limits, okay, then that's what's going to happen, and you know what's going to happen.
Yes.
Every single race, there is another interpretation of track limits, and there's another definition of excessive, or there's another definition of gaining an advantage. And it actually, I think it upsets the average pundit. Just be consistent.
Yes.
And everyone will be happier, because then it applies to everybody.
Yeah, of course. No, definitely. Now, moving to Imola, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, as it's going to be called. Not too much overtaking. There's really only one overtaking spot. Who do you expect to stand out during this Grand Prix?
Well, listen, Mercedes, right up there, going to be right up there. But last year, don't forget, at this Grand Prix, Max was not very far behind the Mercedes until eventually had a tire failure.
Yes.
And when I say not very far, he was about 10 or 12 seconds. And don't forget, Lewis basically got a free pit stop in the Grand Prix as well. So, if Red Bull show the potential what they had in Bahrain and come to Imola, this is not going to be plain sailing for Mercedes. If anything, that Red Bull could well snatch a pole position from Mercedes as they did in Bahrain. So I think we're in for a cracking Grand Prix. Yes, it's such a magnificent circuit. It's steeped in history. I'm wearing my Senna cap. From the days of Imola. But as you say, overtaking in Formula One is incredibly difficult as it is. And when you've only got one real opportunity around Imola, we're going to have to hope for a little bit of spice. And by that, I just mean some creative driving from certain drivers. And let's see. It'll be great. It'll be great. There still won't be spectators, but it'll still be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Sasha, thank you so much for chatting with us. But one more thing, Thursday evening, 7 p.m., where can people tune in to the F1 Pitbox?
Yeah, thanks, Barrie. F1 Pitbox, myself, Gary Formato, on my Facebook page, F1 Sasha, otherwise on my YouTube page, Sasha Martinengo, otherwise at raceday.tv on Facebook as well. So, hopefully we have a special guest with us as well, but I'll only know that in the next couple of hours. But stay tuned and follow Barrie, and please follow me, F1 Sasha, on all my social media.
Absolutely, I'll put all the links down below so everybody can go and give you a follow. But Sasha, thank you so much. As always, it's incredibly insightful and just a pleasure speaking with you before every Grand Prix. So you must enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, Barry. Always a pleasure to chat to you, my friend, and look after yourself. Appreciate it.